Microphone check. 1, 2. Hello, my friends. It's Airyus. We're broadcasting from the base today because things have gotten a little hot. I gotta say, man, I'm not gonna show it on the broadcast here. I don't want to implicate anybody, but I've gotten some messages telling me that I should stop digging into what I've been digging into. You know what I mean? So it's in various places. In Discord, I also got some private Reddit messages just telling me to stop digging. And, you tell me to stop digging. I'm going to keep digging, bruh, all my friends. And I came across this video from Luke Stevens. And let's see, let me get it up here. So Luke Stevens, I mean, dude, guy's got 500K subscribers. I think, a viable resource. Like I'm sure Mr. Stevens here has done his research. And so I was very curious, right? Like, hey, what do you do on your channel, Mr. Stevens? But apparently a channel committed to deep diving into the intricacies of the gaming industry. This dude knows his stuff, man. So you know what? I want to see what he has to say, and I want to watch it with all of you. In case you haven't seen this yet, it's an old video. It came out 4 years ago, but it goes into, as you can see, Bethesda's Shady Management by Luke Stevens. Let's check it out, my friends. Let's see what he has to say.
I've done a lot of videos on Bethesda at this point. My most recent one was a discussion of why Bethesda got so greedy. You might have seen it. It did.
Bethesda greedy? Get out of here.
SEC filings, a bunch of stuff that most people don't really give a crap about, but it gave me a lot of information about the corporate goings on within ZeniMax, which is the parent company of Bethesda Softworks.
Yes,
which is the parent company
we understand this. Maybe I need to go somewhere else. Maybe I'll go over here.
Using that info, we were able to come to a conclusion as to why Bethesda has gotten so weirdly greedy in the last.
Weirdly greedy, he says.
If you want to
I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna hang up here. Hanging up here.
So check it out. And while I was doing this, I actually found some interesting information about some of Bethesda's management. It didn't really fit into that
You
video.
don't say, buddy. I need to move this whole thing up. There we go.
Hey. I had at Bethesda because that wasn't the point of the video, but I figured I should probably share it with you because there's some really interesting things about.
Sorry, it's like getting my frames right.
It's not anything crazy or severe, it's just interesting. I know this.
He says it's not anything crazy.
All of it in just a second. All I ask is that you bear with me. A lot of this has to do with complicated court proceedings that went on in the early 1990s.
Oh, we know about that.
It's really vague and complicated. I'll try to explain it as cleanly and concisely as I can.
He says it's vague and complicated.
And also a quick thank you to NordVPN.
Okay, well, thanks NordVPN.
Let's Shark. This is a Washington, D.C. lawyer who rubbed elbows with...
Jeez, I wonder who he's talking about. Can't be Altman.
...and shadowy individuals. In other words, as you dig into his background, you'll find that Robert Altman is a shark. You don't mess with him, and if you try to double cross him...
There you go.
He'll push you out faster.
Push you out, like we said.
Point. Christopher Weaver brought Robert Altman in 1999 to help manage this new parent.
Yeah, we know this, my friends. We know this.
Altman was going to be the CEO, handle a bunch of the day-to-day operations, and then Christopher Weaver would just have to be the chief technical officer or CTO, managing
just
the
chilling
technical elements,
so he could go teach.
Which, after all, is what he was passionate about. And
right.
I don't know about you, but if my buddy came to me and was like, hey, I want you to be the CEO of my parent company of this thing I've been working on for decades.
This thing I've been working on for decades.
I'm working with you. I'm very honored. Let's figure this out. Let's push on through. Let's make something great happen.
There you go.
I wouldn't do likely what Robert Altman did, which is that in 2002,
there you go.
He pushed Christopher Weaver out of his own company.
There it
I'm not
is.
joking about this. Christopher Weaver actually went and sued ZeniMax for
Uh-huh.
wrongful termination and for owing him a bunch of severance that they didn't pay. It was eventually settled out of court so that a lot of the nitty-gritty of what exactly happened wouldn't come out into the public air, which is understandable in a corporate sense.
See,
But what
so
do
we know a
is
little
that
bit
Robert
about that.
Altman,
We
the
see,
CEO,
we dug in a little
felt kind of
deeper and found out
bogged
about the
down by having
$75,000
the
fine
founder of the
Weaver had
company
to pay
still working with him.
because
So
he
pushed him out.
failed
And
to
Christopher Weaver
win
apparently
his court
still is a
proceedings.
majority, stakeholder. He owns a ton of shares in the company.
Yeah, he's doing
Still has a
okay though,
vested
because he
interest
still
in
owns a
how
lot of shares in
ZeniMax
Bethesda,
and
like he said.
does, but he's no longer involved in the operations of the
Nope.
company.
He got
effectively
kicked
no
out.
Different than you or me if we were to buy
By Robert Altman,
thousands
man.
and thousands of shares of private equity in that company. Again, this is what I mean. Robert Altman is a shark. He won't be taken advantage of, and he's a lot sharper and more aggressive than a lot of people give him
There you
credit
go.
for, and
See,
more aggressive
we've
than
been
a lot of
portraying
people
that
gave him
in our
credit for
series.
back in the 90s. What am I referring to? Buckle in. This is when it
Buckle in.
So Robert Altman, for most of his life, has seemed like a pretty chill dude who doesn't have a ton of stuff going on personally. He's always
Right.
been kind of behind the scenes. He's not.
Dude, that's his wife, Wonder Woman.
Public-facing.
Dude, she's so
Doesn't
hot.
really give many
Hi,
interviews
Linda.
at all. When he does, he's very reserved.
Hi.
He seems like just a quiet businessman, and that's about it. And in the course of my
seems.
research for this video and some past Bethesda videos, I found a lot of smaller stuff about him that I don't think is particularly important. Like, he's married to Linda Carter, who played Wonder Woman at some point.
yeah.
They're very
Mwah.
happy together, which is good. Robert Altman and his wife are also apparently good friends and huge fans of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Having
ties to
given
the
tons of
White
money to
House.
Hillary
We got
Clinton
that
in
one
the
too.
2016 presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
Make of that what you will.
Make
They live
about
in
what
Potomac,
you will,
Maryland, which is
right?
just outside of Bethesda, Maryland, which is why Bethesda is called Bethesda.
Bethesda.
And CNN Money actually rated this little city that they
Oh,
live
here
in,
we go.
Potomac, Maryland, as the most wealthy town in all of America. with more than 25,000
Dude,
residents.
most wealthy
Literally,
town in
more
all of
wealth is
America.
centered in their neighborhood than in most states
Dude.
combined.
Whoa.
But like I said, all of this isn't
Whoa.
particularly important. Yes, he's very, very wealthy. I don't think that's a
Yes.
bad thing. I'm actually kind of
No, I'm jealous of him too, for sure.
If I could live in Potomac, Maryland, of course I would. Who wouldn't
Hell
want
yes.
to do that? Like, he's got it all figured out. And
Little
he seems
cabin
to
on
have
the
a lot
lake,
going
yo.
for him.
That's how
And
I'd
that's
do it.
not an accident. Again, this guy knows what he's doing.
Knows what
And
he's
you may
doing,
wonder
dude.
why I
Robert
keep
Altman, man.
emphasizing
Shark,
the fact
like
that
he
he's a
said.
shark. He knows what he's doing. He's way sharper than people give him credit for. Well, I'm doing that because back in the 1990s, he was involved with a large court case that was incredibly
This is it.
well dispersed throughout the media, all over the United States, and even internationally. It was a huge scandal.
This is the one.
He was at the center of it, along with another guy who was involved in Washington, D.C. politics. And effectively, his entire defense settled around the idea that Robert Altman was just a small...
Oh, it's just he didn't do anything wrong. He was just he was a victim in the thing. Ah,
was not involved in any sort of corruption or anything.
he didn't do anything. I'm innocent. I'm just being a victimized.
At the time, it probably made sense, but having received more information on him in the decades since, I'm not sure if that characterization of Robert Altman is correct.
There.
Now, what is this court case? This is where
There.
it gets really complicated. Basically, Robert Altman was trained to be a lawyer. After he graduated law school, he went.
He was
started
trained
working at
to be a
law firm
lawyer.
within Washington,
Dude,
D.C.
and he has
with a guy
ties to
named
the White
Clark
House. Dude, like this is a
Clifford.
powerful
Now,
dude,
Clark
man.
Clifford actually was at one time the United States Secretary of Defense underneath
There.
the Lyndon B.
Johnson.
administration, and he stayed in that position for a couple decades, actually.
Dude.
This guy was in deep in Washington, D.C. politics.
Like,
very important.
knuckles
And he
deep,
ran his
yo,
own
like
law
all
firm,
up
the
in
law
there,
firm of
fisting it.
Clifford and Warnk. After working with Clifford and Warnk for a little bit, Robert Altman then went and founded his own law firm, called the Law Offices of Robert Altman. Very creative title. And
There you go.
basically, Robert Altman's day-to-day job was to represent companies that were being investigated by Congress or by other judicial committees or agencies. He was the guy that was representing them. So if
Dude, if this was like the Matrix, then Robert Altman is representing the Matrix, the leaders of the Matrix, like the top echelon, man.
Interviewed by Congress, he was their representative. So
there you go.
Always been involved in big business and complicated dealings.
Dude,
and
corporate
stuff.
He represents all the upper tier folks.
Kind of scratch their jawline and wonder what's going on. Anyway, all of that's beside the point. In 1978,
I don't think so.
Robert Altman was approached at his law firm by a group of Arab businessmen. And
here we go.
This is where things start to get really complicated because the legal documents apparently
Arab business, dude.
Businessmen in question.
I mean, nothing against Arabs, man. Like, I got a bunch of Arab friends, and we all homies. We play ball. You know, like one of my dudes are like 6 feet tall, and like he just swats everybody. Okay, let's listen to him. I'm sorry.
But what we do know is these Arab businessmen came in. They approached Robert Altman and his law firm, and also Clark Clifford, who was previously Secretary of Defense, and asked them to help sort of arrange a purchase of a
purchase
bank. This bank was called Financial General Bank.
So he was gonna help launder money, more or less.
This bank, which operated in multiple states throughout the Northeast of the United States, and then they were going to be
tell us more.
Acquired from a larger British bank.
Oh boy,
BCCI.
There it is, the BCCI scandal. BCCI scandal. That was it, baby. That was it. We talked about this.
And these businessmen, as a payment for helping facilitate this purchase, were willing to pay Altman and Clifford a crap ton of money.
A crap ton of money! Luke Stevens, man, you have done some research.
It only makes sense that you would offer the people who helped you do it a fair paycheck, so that kind of checks out. But what's particularly
so they could continue to be bribed and, you know, whatever. Right?
Of Financial General Bank shares after they purchased it and renamed it First American Corporation, which I find really funny considering it was owned by a bunch of Arab
well, we got hey man, what do we name our money laundering company? Hey, how about like 3 Arabs and 2 lawyers? That seems a little suspicious. Maybe we need to switch that out. How about just American? Dude, that's a great idea. Give him a promotion. That's how it went down, dude, just like that.
From one country into the other to try to make it cheaper to do when you're converting your currency all across the world. It's pretty normal that these transactions.
So they totally had something going on, man. And he got paid out mad crazy.
Pretty legit. But the one thing that is a little bizarre is that they made Robert Altman the president of the bank once all of this was done.
What?
This started to raise a few eyebrows. In
what?
1991, some people came forward and suggested.
I was a victim. They just gave me a bunch of money. Oh my God, I had so much money. I was like drowning. I think I almost died. Oh, I have like all this, you know, like PTSD from having so much money. I have to take therapy now because all that money was so suffocating. Oh God.
Reports were saying they were Venezuelan loans. I can't get a straight answer either which way. But regardless, these loans they used to fund the purchase were in default and were not legitimate. Effectively, whoever had established those loans through BCCI had done so fraudulently, using information that wasn't true, lying through their teeth in order to get approved for a loan that they were going to pay. And this is where the he said, she said in all
That's
of this
crazy
starts to get really annoying. Because, of course, the Arab businessmen who were involved in this purchase, who started and facilitated and facilitated all of this, they apparently weren't in the country. And they didn't want to come back into the country to answer for this and explain how this could have happened.
Of course not.
Even though Congress was demanding answers. Pretty soon this ballooned up and investigators on the federal level realized that this bank, BCCI, was involved in all sorts of international purchases that were incredibly really iffy and sketchy.
Iffy and sketchy money laundering, you know.
Been facilitating pretty illegal activities for quite some time. Now, where does Robert Altman come into this? Well, he was accused of being aware of all of this, of knowing that this purchase was being facilitated with fraudulent loans, and this whole thing was very suspicious, and that he didn't say anything. And as a result, and as a payment effectively for his silence, he was made the
there you go. You're an accomplice already, bro.
It was purchased. In other words, it was a quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo. Oh, that's some good like language stuff there. Quid pro quo. If you don't know what it means, go look it up.
As a result, we'll get away with it. Everybody will be happy. You'll have an awesome job. We don't get in trouble. We own a bank that's making us a
keep your mouth shut, and we'll pay you a bunch of money.
It came out in a big way. This was all over.
That's what
the
it means,
place,
basically. If you're still wondering,
on it now because it was back in 1993.
Favor for you know, not money. It could be a favor too. You know, whatever favors.
Check that out, including some archived.
I like his hair. Very jealous of Luke's hair.
Part of what made this so sensational was the fact that Clark Clifford was involved in all of this because he was, of course, Secretary of Defense for a long time. People
ties to the White House. Clark Clifford, his partner in the lawyer industry, who like helped him, you know,
in addition to this,
come up in the ranks.
Married Linda Carter, who was Wonder Woman at one point in 1984. So by the time this happened, everybody's talking about how Wonder Woman's husband is involved in one of the largest financial
shit's Wonder Woman. She can't have a money laundering husband. That's impossible. That's un-American. Dude, his bank's name is American.
Matter. There's British banks, there's Argentinian and Venezuelan banks involved, and then of course there's a bunch of lawyers involved.
Oh boy.
Bury, if they did something wrong, they'd bury all of this behind.
Bury it, dude. You have to.
It was documented.
That's how they get away with it.
It's very hard to track this stuff down, but nonetheless, they brought it. They got an indictment against Clark Clifford, the age-old Washington, D.C. veteran, and then they also brought charges against Robert Altman.
Boom.
These charges came from the New York District Attorney, and they also came from the Department of Justice. So they were
I'm sure they were all friends, dude. Seriously. I'm sure they all like had, I don't know, poker night and
Clark
stuff.
Clifford was around 86 years old at this point in time. He had just had a major operation on his heart. He was incredibly sick and frail, and it was deemed by the judge in the case on the federal level that he was too ill to stand trial.
Too sick, too ill, you know. We covered that as well. He didn't really get, you know, have to go through the big rigmarole, you know, because, oh, he's too sick, he's too frail. We might kill him, you know, if we actually try to question him for the truth, guys. Oh no!
He went to the lawyer Gustave Newman. If you haven't studied business or law, you might not have heard of Gustave Newman, especially if you're younger and you didn't live through.
Well, I'm older and I still haven't heard of that.
All sorts of business scandals, but basically this guy got a ton of New York businessmen who were involved in weird like mob dealings, really stuff.
Mob dealings.
This was the guy you went
to. I mean, you can't make this up, you know? You can't. This is all real. It happened.
Like this was the guy you went to because he could get you off. Of his more famous clients, or perhaps sensational would be a better term, this guy represented Bernard Bergman, who was a businessman who managed an empire of nursing homes around the country. I'm not joking. Like, he was called the Emperor of nursing homes. I never realized.
I am Lord of the Old. Lord of the Old.
This guy. This guy was actually.
Bring me your lame, your crippled, your
so basically,
can't hold their bowels. Let them shot themselves in my castle, in my empire of old people nursing homes.
He would be sent that money, and he would just pocket it. No big deal. And the people were in a nursing home, so they probably weren't aware what it was costing them to be there. So it went on for several years, but eventually he was caught and found guilty, despite Newman's representation. He also
Dude.
represented a group of union leaders who were accused, and eventually some of them were found guilty of taking kickbacks from.
Oh, see, so you know, like these are lawyers that represent rich people who are stealing from, you know, normal people to fatten their pockets. Gee, that stuff doesn't happen nowadays. Nah.
$5,500. Like, he went to a textbook company distributor and extorted them for $5,000.
Dude.
Like, where do you find these clients? Like,
what the hell, bro?
Robert Altman hired.
You stealing from a book company.
Even though a lot of his clients
kind of bully are you? You are like the epitome of a bully. You don't just beat up nerds. You steal from their book companies.
At what he did. And so in 1992, Robert Altman went on trial, and he demanded to have an actual trial despite federal investigators and prosecutors coming to him with all sorts of plea deals. Basically, they said, if you admit that you did X, Y,
he
and Z,
demanded
we'll
a trial.
5 years in prison.
Because he's a lawyer. He knows how to play the game.
It may have been, we don't really know. But he refused all of them and said, let's go to trial. I'm innocent. Let me prove it. The trial lasted about 5 months. Eventually, the judge dismissed a bunch of bribery charges because there wasn't sufficient evidence for this, which is pretty.
Oh, I'm sure they covered it up. Any sort of tax Can you tell I'm just a little bit biased? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try to be more unbiased. But it's just kind of know things. You know, when you know, you know.
In front of a jury of 12 people, many of whom are not involved in the finance industry at all, who don't know how to read a 10K document, who don't know a balance sheet from an income statement.
It probably got set up that way on purpose.
Who are not really qualified to sift through all of this evidence. So if the charges aren't really substantiated, you should just dismiss it. Otherwise, you could have a miscarriage of justice at the end of the day. It makes sense. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
It does.
But it is important to know that the judge dismissed all of those bribery charges due to lack of evidence.
Wow.
And after this, Robert Altman was actually feeling pretty good. He actually
declined
the right to present a defense to the jury. He basically just sat back, said, hey, look, the judge is throwing stuff out because there's not enough evidence. Are you guys going to find me guilty of any of this stuff? So he just sat back again, played the innocent victim.
Like, yeah, dude, because he knows how to play it. He does.
No idea they were buying the bank with fraudulent loans.
Oh, my gosh.
I was very thankful they made me president of the bank after the fact. But again,
there you go.
No idea any of this was going on. And sure enough, the jury found him innocent in all of this. They acquitted him of all of the charges, saying there wasn't enough evidence to convict him of much of anything. And then
you're a victim, bro. It's all good.
Federal charges against him, citing again a lack of actual evidence for any sort of wrongdoing. But as part of the dismissal of these federal charges, Robert Altman had to agree, and he did, to never participate in the banking industry ever again. Effectively, federal investigators and judges said, listen, we can't prove you did anything wrong, but you aren't apparently very above board with all of this. You should have known this stuff was going on.
Okay, so there's a little bit of more information that we didn't have. So maybe that was something that was misunderstood, but he wasn't banned from practicing law. He was barred from participating in any kind of financial institution moving forward.
Around 5 years.
That's good to know. I like being wrong, because it's always a search for the truth, baby.
Weaver to be the CEO of his new company, ZeniMax, which was going to replace the already established.
So that's why he had to go into gaming, because he couldn't go anywhere else.
And the rest is history.
There you go.
So what does all of this mean? Well, Robert Altman played dumb, effectively, in order to get out of all of this.
He used his knowledge, his knowledge of the inner workings of the system.
Any of this was going on. That's what a jury of his peers found to be the case.
There you go.
They said that, listen, there's no evidence.
There's no evidence.
This was happening. He's innocent of all charges. But from what we know about Robert Altman, this is a Washington, D.C. lawyer. This is a shark of sharks swimming in a very
he's basically calling it like we said
in Washington, D.C.
And I swear to God, guys, I've never seen this video, by the way. This is my first time watching it.
This guy represented billion-dollar companies in front of Congress when the stakes are about as high as they possibly can be.
Yeah, like he knew
Was not naive,
how to deal.
He's certainly not stupid.
Nope.
And he's certainly not oblivious to the goings-on around him.
Nope.
And if you're telling me that that same individual was approached by a bunch of who said, we want to
he was oblivious the whole time. Nah, dude, I don't buy it either. He had ties to the White House. He had experience practicing law. He had experience representing like shady people.
Using loans we've acquired from all over the world. That would make me suspicious. And it would probably make you suspicious.
Anyone with two brain cells.
Just mathematically, you're probably not a tycoon on Wall Street or in Washington, D.C.
No, none of us are. I mean, I'm not. Shoot, maybe y'all are.
Suspicious and
if any of you all are, like, hey, if you need a content creator, holler at me. You know, I'll create some content for you.
Here, be the president of our new bank.
Of our bank, right?
You're a lawyer and you're not a banker. That would get me suspicious, and I think it would make anybody suspicious, and this is why federal investigators were so suspicious.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there wasn't enough evidence to take him and
dude, see, he gets away, man. He got it. He got away.
And he went about his business, and he was found innocent, and it was this big thing. Everybody thought that justice prevailed, and he had been falsely accused.
Good job. Wonder Woman's husband is legitimized. He's proven innocent. He's all right. He's
the guy,
because Wonder Woman can't be married to a crook.
Specifically, well,
that's un-American.
Entirely sure. Again, this was something kind of interesting I came across in my research for the last video on Bethesda, and it just reaffirmed some of the.
Oh, maybe we should watch that video next. We'll dig it up. We'll dig it up.
Shady corporate soup that happens all over the country, all over the world. It's just part of what happens. And
so, yeah, man, I think we got the gist of that thing, and it's crazy. This is not just coming from us. We hear it from other people. And, Luke Stevens is a very big time YouTuber, 500K. In fact, I'm going to, go over here and leave a little message on Mr. Stevens' great video, my friend. I've been doing my own little series on Bethesda as well. Great to see our info line up. Cheers, man. Oops, shares. Stay rad. Boom. Comment. Up thumb. Subscribe. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to check out more of his videos maybe next time. I'm going to do some more digging myself, see who else is talking about Bethesda. My name is Airyus. Stay rad, my friends. Cheers.